Hello everyone, Unforgiven here with another GIMP tutorial. Today we'll be going over two different methods for creating fire or a fire effect within the GIMP program. One being a static image and the other being an animated one. If you don't already have the program, you can download it for free. It is a free open source program and you can find it at gimp.org. There will be a link in the description below. So first off, we are going to start by opening up our GIMP program. Okay, now I am going to, for the first method here for creating a fire effect, I'm going to want to put that on a background just to make it look a little better for this tutorial. So I am going to open an image I already have. Okay, now I've chosen this image because the effect we are going to use today will be putting a flame effect onto text. However, this effect can be put onto any object that you can place into the background as a separate layer. And you'll see exactly what I mean here momentarily. So first I am going to zoom in just a bit here so we can see what we're doing. And that when I create this effect, it tends to have a blackness to the or a dark on the top of the effect. So I am going to place the text that I'm going to create into this black area over here, so that it actually doesn't show up and it creates a better effect in the end. And you'll see what I'm saying here in just a second. Okay. First, I am going to start by going into my layers box, and my background image is right here, and I am simply going to duplicate that image by going underneath to the duplicate button and pressing that one time, and now I have a copy of my original background. I do this just so I can do any kind of work onto a copy and I'm not messing up my original, just in case I have to go back for any reason. Okay. Now from here we're going to want to add text. So I am going to come to my toolbox and select my text tool. And coming over onto the image, move this box out of the way a little bit. I am just going to draw a nice little box here about yay big. Okay. Now for the font, I am going to change the font to a bold font so it sticks out a little better, and the size I am going to change to say about 25, and my box is in the way. The color of the text right here can be changed just simply by clicking on that, and will bring up your color palette box. And I am going to choose just a nice reddish type of color. At this point the color doesn't matter so much, I just want something that's going to stick out on the dark background that I've chosen. So I am going to just pick a nice reddish color, click OK there, and start typing. Now it is a little big for the box, so I will change the size of my box to where my text actually fits within it. Okay. Now, if you'll notice in your layers box, you now have your original background as well as the copy we just made, and a new text layer that we just created. Now with this text layer, you can position it around with your move tool in your toolbox here, just by clicking on that, and with anywhere within the yellow dotted square box that it gives you for the text you entered, making sure of course you're actually selected onto that layer. So we're going to make sure the text layer itself is highlighted before we go doing any type of moving, since that is what we are wanting to move. And you can just move it around to where you want it. And I think I'm going to place it about right there. Okay, now I am going to need to next convert this from a text layer into an image layer, and also at the same time change the size of the layer it's on to fit the entire canvas that we're working with. To do so, I am going to come into the layers box, and by right clicking onto the text layer we just created here, I am going to select layer to image size, and this just simply resizes the layer to fit the canvas, and it also converts it into a image layer. Okay, now coming back into the layer box and onto our text layer, we're going to right click once again and choose alpha to selection, and this is just going to select everything inside this layer that is not transparent, which is our text itself. Now at this point the text and everything that we just created is not needed. We don't need that anymore, as that's not the color or anything that I want to go with. So I am going to delete that layer, and that puts us back down onto our copy. So ensuring we are on our copy layer in our layers box, we still have our selection up for our text, and I am just going to want to now color that or make it look how I want, and I am going to give it a nice little effect using the gradient tool. So I'm going to come over into the toolbox and select the gradient or the gradient or blend tool, and I am going to choose in the layers box here down below. It gives you your choice of tabs for your brushes and your gradients. So we're just going to click on the third tab over to open the gradients, and I am just going to scroll down here till I can find, I believe, incandescent, and that looks like it's going to give us a nice look. Don't believe see anything that's going to do any better. Okay, so now by choosing incandescent for my gradient, and if you'll notice in my tool options, the gradient we have chosen, the incandescent, does show up over here. I'm going to come back onto the image and move my layers box out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to come right underneath my selection here and holding down the control key to ensure that I can pull straight up. I'm just going to click and pull a line up to just above the text selection there, and then release. And what that does is going to color our selection in with the gradient we chose there, with a little darker on the bottom and lighter on the top. I think that looks a little more like flames. Now, since we're working on a layer that has our text on it as well as this background here, we don't want to do anything with this background when we go through our rendering filter for flames. So the next thing we want to do is come up top to select and invert, and this just simply inverts the selection, so now everything in this picture is selected except for the text that we just colored. And now I am going to come back up top to edit and cut, and you'll notice that cut everything out of our picture there. But one mistake I did make here, and that will be a simple correction, is you notice when I cut it out, everything turned white. To fix that, if you come back over to the copy layer that we're working on and right click, add alpha channel, and once you have done that, you can come back up top again to edit and cut, this time, if I turn off the bottom layer and make it invisible, so now we're only seeing the layer we were selected here. You can see we've deleted everything except for our text. So now I can come to the top to select and none. Deselect everything there. And once again, ensuring that I am selected onto my text layer in our layer dialog box here. Come back up top to filters. And almost forgot what I was doing. Oh, I apologize. Not under filters, but under FX Foundry, animation, and Fire Animator. Now, if you do not have the FX Foundry plugin or script within GIMP, I will leave a link to that in the description below, as well as a link to the tutorial on how to install scripts into GIMP. That will bring us up this window here for our Fire Animator script foo. The number of frames is by default set to 15. Now you can play around with these values all you want and change it around to fit your needs. But for now, I'm going to leave these values alone. The gradient I'm also going to leave alone. This is the color scheme it's going to be using to create the fire. However, I am going to check the box next to Use Background. And underneath where it states the background, there is a drop-down box. I am going to open it and choose the background layer that we currently have here. And click OK. And just give that a moment to run. The more frames you enter in here, the higher number you enter in here, the longer it will take to run this script. However, for the most part, GIMP is a very lightweight program and runs rather quick. It doesn't bog down your PC like most visual effects programs do. We'll just give that a moment, and there we go. Okay, and this is what it has created. And if I zoom in just a bit here, now I can play around with this a little bit more and make it look a whole lot better, and actually I think I will do one thing to make that look better. I'm just going to close that out and come back to our original that we were working on, and on my layer that my text is on, I want to make sure that is selected, and I am going to come up top to filters. I'll take that back. I am going to come across to Script Foo and Layer Effects, Bevel and Emboss. Once again, if you do not have the Script Foo Layer Effects script, I will leave a link in the description below for this as well. Okay, the Bevel and Emboss Script Foo window will open up once you click that. I am going to leave this set to outer bevel. That will give me a bevel on the back side of my text here, and it will be a slightly lighter shade. If I were to do an inner bevel, it would put the bevel onto the front side, and it would actually have a light or white look to it. Other than that, I'm going to leave most of the settings alone. Highlight and shadow colors we want to leave alone. However, we do want to change the highlight opacity and the shadow opacity all the way to 100. Click Merge with Layer. Make sure that box is checked there. If you don't, just when you're done, you'll just have a whole bunch of extra stuff over here that might just confuse you. So we're just going to tell it to merge it all down and click OK. That might have been a little much there on the bevel, but you can see the basic effect. So making sure that layer is highlighted, I'm going to apply the flame effect once again I go into FX Foundry Animation Fire Animator. Leaving all the defaults, making sure the background is checked to use the background, and the background sample is set to the background we have opened here, and click OK. Give that one more moment. Hopefully this one will turn out slightly better. Now I promise you this is the longest part of the tutorial. The static fire part will be a lot shorter, and I think it actually looks a lot better in the end than this one. I just wanted to give out a couple of different options. Okay, actually this actually looks a little better than what we had before. And now you can see that I have created nice text for my channel name Unforgiven here with a flame effect. Now, like I said, this is just one method of creating flames within GIMP. Now this is animated as well, so I could just save this one frame here and as a JPEG or a bitmap and just use it as this. You can also save this as an animated GIF. To show you what that looks like when it is animated, you can come up top to Filters, Animation, Playback. I will open up in another window for playback and just hit play, and you can see we got our flames going pretty nice there. You can see the full effect of that filter we just ran. That's a pretty nice effect overall. Okay. Now for our the next part of the tutorial for creating fire, I am just going to open up GIMP and starting over fresh from scratch here. I am going to open up an image to put the fire on, just so it looks a little better for the tutorial. Okay, and what I've chosen here, and once again, any kind of fire you make really does show up better on a darker background. So once again, for the sake of the tutorial, I have just created a complete black background. Excuse me. Zoom in a little there. Okay, now for this method, it's a little bit simpler, and there's no animation involved, and I think overall in the end it gives a better still image look for fire. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be replacing the trash can lid here with a effect that makes it look like there's I guess an oil, like the trash can has been filled up with gasoline or oil and then been lit aflame. So to do that, I am going to come over into my toolbox and choose my ellipse select tool, and just simply coming over onto the image, create a nice elliptical circle there, and just take a moment or two to get that lined up. And I want to do the best job I can to get this just inside the rim of the can. I do like to leave a little extra rim in the front and almost to the very edge in the back, and that just gives it a little more of a realistic effect. Now once you have this drawn out and placed exactly how you'd like it to look to cover up, I am going to come over into the layers box, and underneath I am going to duplicate my trash.jpg layer here by pressing the duplicate button. Okay, I'm going to choose my bucket fill tool from my toolbox. And in the tool options, I'm going to make sure that fill hole selection is checked. And then by making sure my foreground color is white, because I want to fill my selection in with white, I'm just going to simply click inside the selection. Okay. For the next part, we want to come up top to select, and we want to invert the selection. And coming over into the layers box and onto the copy of the background we just made that we're working on, I want to right click, add alpha channel, and then you can simply hit the delete key, or you can come up top to edit, cut, and if you hide the bottom layer, you'll see you're left with nothing but the white oval circle that fits perfectly over the trash can. Okay, now once again, making sure the trash copy layer here is selected, I am going to select None, Filters, Render, Clouds, Difference Clouds. This box will pop up for solid noise. There's one small change you need to make here. Click the box next to Turbulent. This just give us a nice, well, with darker swirls. And click OK. Then Colors, Curves. You will get this curves box that pops up, and you're going to want to come directly into the center here, and by using your left mouse button, we're just going to simply drag this line directly to the bottom and click OK. Come back up top to Colors, Color Balance. And inside here we have 3 ranges that we can adjust, and we're actually going to be adjusting all 3. So we will start with the shadow. We're going to move the top slider for cyan and red all the way to the right, and the bottom for yellow and blue all the way to the left. Coming back up, clicking on the midtones, we're going to just repeat by turning the cyan red to the right and the yellow and blue to the left. Back up to highlights, and rinse and repeat with cyan and red to the right and yellow and blue to the left. Click OK. And now you've created a little bit more of an effect here that we can play with, or more of a style that looks like fire. Now from here, you're going to want to come into your toolbox and select your smudge tool. And you can see the size of my brush there. It's a little large, so you can change the size of your brush accordingly to how you want it to look for your effect. About this size for the type of, or the size of that I'm working on here is about right. And what I'm going to want to do is come inside here and click and pull up. And as you do this all the way around, just take your time playing with it, getting it looking a little bit better. Like I said, the more time you take to actually play around into making your flames, the better you can make this look. Okay, now that we got that looking pretty good, it looks pretty realistic to me as far as I'm concerned. That is just about it. There is one other step that we can do to make this look just a little bit better. It's something that you could have done at the very beginning. However, it did slip my mind, but we can go back and do that now. And that is to remove the trash can lid itself from the image so that the fire kind of sits in there a little better, and we can make the lid come through and show through the fire somewhat, and I'll show you how in just a moment. So to do that, we're going to want to first come into our layers box and select our main background image, and we're going to want to duplicate that once again with the duplicate button. Now, ensuring we are clicked and selected on the duplication we just made, the copy number 1 here, I am going to turn off the eye for the trash copy, the fire layer itself, the top one here, and by clicking on the eye here, it just simply hides that layer. That way it's out of our way and we can see what we're doing. Make sure you are highlighted on the copy that we just duplicated. And if you want to do this step at the beginning, it's a little easier since you already have this drawn out. We're going to simply draw another elliptical. Okay, and once you get that looking just about right, basically like it was at the beginning when we first created it, you're going to want to come over to your toolbox and choose the fill bucket. And we want to make sure the foreground color is black, because that is what we are filling it in with. And underneath on the tool options, we want to make sure that the fill hole selection box is checked. And then just simply come into your image and click with anywhere within the selection. Okay, now that we have that the trash can lid taken out of the picture, we are going to go ahead and turn the eye back on for our fire layer in the layer dialog box here, so it appears again, and come up top to select and none. Now coming back once again into the layer dialog box and clicking on the top layer here, our fire layer, we are going to change the mode to screen. And what this does, it just allows this layer, or excuse me, the lower layers to show through somewhat onto the top layer. So if you look back at our picture, now we have the flames coming through, and you can actually see the back rim of the trash can coming through the flames. So it looks a little more like the fire is inside the trash can and not like it's sitting on top. And that does just about complete the tutorial today for the second method on how to create fire within GIMP. I hope this tutorial was educational. Please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe. And if you have any ideas or would like me to feature a specific type of project or image manipulation, just please leave a comment below stating so, and I'll see what I can do.